All right, welcome in, everybody. It's not all there. I am Chad. I am your host. This is my podcast. And today I am joined by Tommy G, the Hockey Town Hypnotist. I am quite excited to have a conversation with Tommy. He and I, we've been texting a little bit. We had a call last week. We just really hit it off. And there's a lot of really good stuff that we're going to get to today. You know, with the origin of the podcast, a lot of it was dealing with, most of it has been about addiction, recovery, and sobriety. And we've got 50 in the can, as they say, for that. And it's all important, valuable stuff. I am trying to take more of a broader view and approach of what recovery really is and what it means for people and how they find it and things in their life that they are recovering from. And, you know, as things go, the universe, God, whatever you choose to call it, led Tommy and I together, and we really felt that there's a great connection between the work that we do separately, and who knows, maybe in the near future or in the distant future, we'll somehow collaborate together in that. So, Tommy, tell me a little bit about, you know, who you are, where you're from, what you do, what led you to where you are. Just the floor is yours, my friend.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm Tommy G. I'm the Hockey Town Hypnotist. Detroit City, Detroit Rock City, Hockey Town, whatever you want to call it. That's my basically home stomping ground there. I'm in a smaller city outside of there in the suburbs, but yeah, I do a lot of shows around here, and I've been doing hypnosis for 20 years. I started out right at the end of high school when I was a senior, which was a wonderful skill for a teenager to learn. You know, if you can imagine, I got in trouble all the time in school. I wonder why. Practicing in class. Anyway, so I learned hypnosis as a senior in high school back in '05. And I've been doing it for 20 years ever since. It's just never ceased to blow my mind. First of all, that it works, because I got into it because I didn't believe in it. It looked fake.
Yeah.
I allowed a good friend of mine, Mr. Michael Brody, the amazing Michael Brody, to do it to me and prove me wrong, and it worked. It just kind of, ever since then, I was like, all right, I got to learn as much as I can about this. And, you know, that led me to primarily doing a lot of shows, a lot of the comedy hypnosis stage shows and things like that, where I'm making people, dance around to river dance and making their tongues dance and making it so that, they forget their name, or now your name is Bubba, or whatever it is, right?
Sure.
And that's all really fun, and it's a great time. And it got me also doing those shows. People would come up to me and say, hey, do you help people quit smoking, quit all these bad habits? And most of the time I would say, well, I can, but I usually would refer people out to other people who had been doing that for longer. And when people would come to me and they would say, I know you, I recognize you, I'm comfortable with you, do you think we could do this? Then I would take them on and I'd say, fine, yeah, let's do this. And what I found was I was having faster results than a lot of my hypnotherapy counterparts, just because in a stage show, it's so fast paced.
Right.
You don't have time to do a long, slow induction technique to get people into the deep trance state, whatever you want to call it. It's got to be quick. Bam, 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 bam. You got to be able to get results quickly. And so that was a skill that I really underappreciated in my hypnotherapy practice until very recently. But that kind of took me down this path of, wow, this is really helping people. I've had people come to me to quit drinking, and after just a session or two, they're like, I just don't feel like I need it anymore. And, smoking, same thing. We were talking just before this about a gentleman I just helped yesterday who he gave me all of his $200+ of vape and tobacco and all the products that are killing him. And he told me also that he had bought a pack of cigarettes before the session, and he took it back to the store and got his money back. And I'm like, well, that's cool, because that's an intentional move, driving all the way back and getting your money back for it. Like that's
and they gave his money back, which
they gave his money back. It was unopened. So,
okay.
But either way, that's me. I've got, I've got a wife and 6 kids. I got, I'm going to say legally I have 3 chickens.
Sure.
Definitely not 16.
Oh, definitely. 16. That's just a nice number. That's 16.
I got a nice
number.
big yard. Yeah. It's a nice number to aim for. Anyway, but that's me in a nutshell there. Yeah. Now I'm the hypnotherapy program director. It's funny, the flip from all the stage shows to, and I still do those, but now I am the hypnotherapy program director for a nonprofit called the Tom Silver Foundation, and it's all just been moving in a very cool direction.
That's awesome. I want to get back to the foundation in a little bit, but I'm for my own curiosity, what was your first experience like when you were hypnotized for the
Yeah,
first
that
time? So
was
you're like a doubter, right? Like, oh, this is whatever. So go ahead, prove me wrong. Show me what it is. And what was that like?
I was the typical. So just to give you some context, I was in a very well-known rock band at that time called Opus Podunk, and we were known all across the state. Like just we
Okay.
were getting big. We were having like record deals on our plate and all that kind of stuff.
All
We
right.
turned them down because, I was young and dumb. But
Well, you wouldn't be.
and that's a different story for a whole nother day. But
Right.
anyway, so super ego here, like
Mm.
front man of a band,
Hmm.
the lead guitar player,
Hmm.
singer of a band. Like, all right, come on, ladies. Anyway, so I heard my friend Mike at the Dickens Festival up in Holly, which is a Christmas festival. It's beautiful, and if anyone ever gets to go up there, it's awesome. It's in November and December every weekend, and I was singing there with a guy named Mike Brody, who he's been a hypnotist for 30 plus years. And he's incredible to watch, just hilarious shows. And he goes by America's fastest hypnotist, and he is incredibly fast, by the way. But so I overheard him talking about doing a hypnosis show to another singer there. And I basically called him out because I had some other friends with me that I was singing in another group with as well. And I was like, oh, that's so fake. And I
Yeah.
basically just called him a liar. And he smiled at me and he goes, yeah, Tommy, are you willing to be wrong?
Yeah.
Sure. Hypnotize my friend Andrew over here. So Andrew Schloss, my good friend, was there with me, and he hypnotized him. He was all about it. He hypnotized him. He comes out of it and goes, "That was cool. Could I learn this from you?" And Mike goes, "Sure, we could work something out. I'll teach you." And I was like, "All right, you're just both messing with me now. I'll be the guinea pig. I'll prove him wrong." And so I went to Andrew's house when Mike was going to come teach him, and I sit down on the couch, and Mike tells me what's going to happen. And as he's hypnotizing me, I noticed as he was doing a very specific like arm pull technique, and I noticed kind of my eyes getting droopier and like it kind of getting black or dark around the edges a little bit, right? And then I just kind of dropped down in my seat, and the whole time I'm thinking, I'm not gonna do what he says though.
Right.
I'm comfortable. I'm not gonna sit up right now, but I'm not gonna do it. And it wasn't like I was really opposed to it. I just thought it was dumb, right? So it's not like it was a moral conundrum. It was just I
Yeah.
thought because he said, "Okay, Tommy, when I count to three and I snap my fingers, you're gonna sit up." And as soon as you open your mouth, bow wow is going to spill out of your mouth. Just it's going to happen automatically, instantly. You're not even going to think about it. It's just going to happen immediately. It's kind of like a yawn or a sneeze, whatever. It's just going to instantly happen. You don't even worry about it. And I'm thinking, I'm not going to do that though. And so he counts to three, 1, 2, 3, sit up. I sit up, eyes are open, and he goes, "Tommy, how you feeling?" And I was like, I didn't say anything. And he goes, "I need you to tell me how you're feeling, Tommy. I need to know that you feel okay." And I opened my mouth and it went bow wow. And I went, whoa. It was like, well, all right. Now I'm paying really close attention to what Mike's teaching Andrew because I want to learn this too. Because it's like, how do you do that?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was it. I was sold hook, line, and sinker right there.
That's amazing. Okay, so you train with this guy, you learn from him. Like, so you get into doing shows, right? So how did you become doing things? Were you like I don't know, like a street performer? What led you to do the stage stuff that you do? And do you have a comedy background? What led into that?
Well, so I mean, I've always been a performer ever
Okay.
since I could really walk and talk. I've been performing. I've been playing guitar since I was 7. I've been singing my whole life. It was primarily music that I was doing, but I've always been kind of a goof off.
Hmm.
So
Relate.
I just kind of combined being a goof off with being in front of people and being a ham and just doing that kind of thing. And watching Mike's shows. One of the things that, performers will do is they'll watch each other and they'll take little bits of what each other does and make it their own. And so I would watch a lot of his shows and I would kind of just adapt. But what I really got into, because this is pre-YouTube, but Mike told me to check out a guy named Darren Brown. And this guy would go around, and he's incredible to look up, Derren, Darren Brown. But he would go around and do things up on the street. He'd go up and just
Mm.
say, he would do like covert style hypnosis
Right.
and, get people to do cool things. And so I started doing that at like local malls, outside like, the strip malls and things like that, wherever there was a lot of foot traffic. I got kicked out of Macomb Mall in Partridge Creek. And but I mean, I get why, like it makes sense. But I was like this 18, 19-year-old kid doing this. But yeah, I would go around and I would do all of that just to kind of get my chops. And I would actually have Andrew and I used to actually host these when he was first learning. He stopped doing it right after, but we would host little parties at his apartment.
Okay.
Where it would be a hypnosis party.
Sure.
And so we'd have all our friends invite their friends, and let's just practice a routine. Let's just practice these techniques that we learned. And so we would do that over and over again. And eventually, I started getting real good at this, and I started doing some shows at coffee shops, just real small things. And then Mike actually is the whole reason I even kept going with it, because he'd say, Tommy, are you still doing these hypnosis shows? I'm like, yeah, I just don't know where to go for them. I'm not really sure how to get a gig. I'm, 18, 19 years old. He goes, I have one for you if you want it. I was like, please tell me more. And so he sent me a gig for a high school. And so I went out, I did that. It went over really well. Looking at my shows now, it's night and day, of course, but it went over really well. They liked me. They said, we want to have you back next year. I was like, oh, this is really validating. And after that, he was telling me, here's how you get these high school shows. Here's how you get these shows. It was primarily high schools at that time. And then from there, it's like, well, you start to learn tricks of the trade, and you meet people, and you kind of find your footing.
So when do you recall the first time that you help somebody like with something meaningful, whether it is like quitting smoking or whatever it might be, some kind of challenge that you help them work through with the work that you do? Do you recall what that was like, and what happened?
Yeah. A friend of mine had been struggling with alcohol.
Okay.
I think he had just turned 21 or 22, something like that. He was a couple years older than me. He had been struggling with alcohol. He got real drunk one night, cheated on his girlfriend who he'd been with for a long time, and he just felt horrible. He's like, I'm not that guy. I let myself be that guy. It's my own fault, but I don't ever want to touch this stuff again. Can you help me? And I said, let's see what we could do. And so he came over, and I was still living with my parents' house at that time. So he came over, comes downstairs to my little hangout area, and I spent the next hour just taking him into hypnosis as in today what I would call like that low brainwave amplified receptivity state. Then I was saying deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into hypnosis. But either way, I basically told him, because at that time I'm thinking quick results, right? We need to trigger something. And so I'm thinking every time this, then this. Every time this, then this. It's a if-then sort of equation, right?
Right.
And so I told him, the next time you go to touch any kind of alcoholic beverage that you know is alcoholic, if it's a can of beer, if it's a bottle of wine, when you touch it, you're going to feel queasy.
Okay.
As soon as it touches your lips, you are going to vomit.
All right. Okay.
Or at least feel it building inside you.
Uh-huh.
He called me up the next day and said it worked. Didn't touch it again.
Red wine does not come out of the carpet. Wow. What do you have like a focus or are there here we go. Are there various disciplines of hypnotherapy, or is it sort of, a generalized method, and then you find specific lanes or something, or what am I trying to say? Anything specific within the therapy that you focus on?
So I primarily focus on a technique created by a man named Tom Silver.
Okay.
And the reason I do that is it was already so similar to my own techniques that it was very easy to adopt and far more powerful internally from what I was already doing. So it's called emotion replacement therapy, or ERT for short. That is the kind of primary modality that I use right now. Really, what I tell people is hypnosis really is hypnosis. Like there are different brandings. There's like quantum healing hypnotherapy. There's like there's all these. There's past life regression hypnotherapy. There's tons and tons of different branding that goes along with it. And there are different techniques and styles.
Sure. Well, let me jump in real quick. Then what is hypnotherapy? What is it? I mean, so what happens? It's like a general overall like experience for somebody. What takes place inside the head, inside the brain?
Yeah. So to break it down in a nutshell for you, the brain is a supercomputer, right? And if we think of it like a dual processor, it's got the hard drive, which is where all the memories are stored, all of the unconscious, subconscious activities happening, right? That's your subconscious and below. And then you've got your conscious mind, which is like the screen in front of you on the computer, right? It's the RAM. It's what's actively being shown on the screen, and that's the fancy stuff that we see, right? That's a little bit of like the fluff, right? And so the RAM is how I'm seeing you on my screen right now. The hard drive, the processing that's all happening underneath that is the stuff that's all just the ones and zeros, and the stuff that we really don't notice. It's the ons and offs, right? And so what we do in hypnosis is we utilize natural brainwave frequencies. So and I'm going to nerd out for just a second here, but it all makes sense in the end. All right. Yeah. So one of my primary jobs at the Tom Silver Foundation is the hypnotherapy trainer as well. So I go into all of this. So we've got 5 main brainwave states. Working our way up from the bottom, we've got delta, which is that sleep state. It's very low frequency, low activity, a low electrical charge there. We've got the theta that comes next. We've got alpha, we've got beta, and then we've got gamma. Gamma is what we would refer to as like that flow state, hyper-focus fixation state of mind. That's like Michael Jordan playing when he had the flu, and
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's gamma. That's Pavel Datsuk on the ice every time he put skates on. And or we'll say Sergei Fedorov, since they're retiring his number. There we go.
Okay, finally.
Finally. But typically, like you and I right now, we would be in what's called a beta brainwave state. And beta is like that 14 to 30 hertz range. And so knowing how brainwaves work as a hypnotist is key, because you can start to notice the changes much quicker. And so what I tell people is, when you close your eyes, immediately you drop down from beta into alpha. Just an instant change. And what we're doing as a hypnotist is we are lowering those brainwave frequencies so that you become more receptive to information, because they've shown that those lower brainwave frequencies are the receiving frequencies. So you are bringing in information and it's being processed and placed where it needs to go, right? It's a little bit like, as a hypnotist, I'm a Mac guy, I don't know that it does this, but I remember my old PC, I had to defragment the disk all the time back in the day.
Yeah,
right?
Of course, yeah.
Hypnosis is a lot like you're defragmenting the disk. Okay. You're clearing out the caches, you're getting rid of those temp files, you're cleaning the viruses out, and you are helping that computer to function at its optimal state. And so essentially, there's a lot of different ways of doing it, and they are all pretty effective. But basically, when you are in that really receptive, suggestible, amplified state of gaining this new information, these suggestions, what it does is it bypasses the conscious mind filters a little bit. Okay. So your conscious mind, thinking logically, is going to say, well, this doesn't make sense. My arm doesn't naturally just want to go up on its own as if it's being pulled by helium balloons. Why is, this doesn't, and then you're going to stop it. We're going to bypass that, and we're just going to say, just let it happen. And when it happens, just notice that it happened, and things like, and so then the arm goes up, and then it just kind of hangs there, and it doesn't feel like it's got any weight to it. It just hangs there and whatever. But we're bypassing that conscious mind to make the changes at a subconscious level. Does that make sense?
It does to me. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's the way it works, and it's why it's so effective, and even more effective, and I might make people mad by saying this, and I just don't care. It's more effective than typical talk therapy. It's more effective than going to many, and I've talked to psychologists about this, sports psychologists, psychiatrists, and neurologists about this, and they say, yeah, there's something to this. Harvard's done studies on it. Things that you wouldn't think could be helped with hypnosis they did studies on it, like small scale studies, mind you. And this is one of the things I want to get into later on is more studies. But Harvard did a study with, I believe it was 12 individuals with broken bones. And they utilized hypnosis in conjunction with their medical treatment. And those individuals healed 30% faster than expected.
I believe it.
I mean, burn victims, it was the same kind of thing. I think it was 20 to 30% faster healing times for burn victims. And psychologically, their whole mind state was improved because they weren't focused on the pain.
Exactly.
And so it's that kind of a thing, you know? It's the learning peripherally, right?
Yes.
Sometimes makes it stick better.
Absolutely. Well, you know, people are so afraid of things. You know, anything that they don't understand, they are inherently afraid of, right? And this is something that doesn't make a lot of sense to people because you're like, wait, I'm doing what? I'm bypassing this, and I'm what's happening? And I don't understand it. It makes me feel weird and uncomfortable. Therefore, I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to talk about it. I'm just going to take some medicine, what have you. And you know, fine, so be it. If that works for you, then you know, who am I to judge? That said, you know, I think it benefits so many of us to be open-minded to as many things as we can that will help us heal, will help us feel better about ourselves, be happy. You know, the brain's a wild and crazy thing, but it is fascinating what you can allow to happen within your brain if you just allow it to. Like neuroplasticity is like nuts when you dive into what happens there and how your brain can actually heal and continue to grow as you age and repair itself. And I firmly believe that hypnotherapy has got to play a huge part in all of that. So do you have any experience in working with trauma victims, people who have dealt with personal traumas in their life, and have you noticed any effect, or have they talked about how their day-to-day processes have maybe changed because of the work that you've done with them?
Absolutely. So someone I worked with in the last year actually came to me, had been a victim of sexual assault. And beyond that, it was just a very abusive relationship in general that she had been a part of. And it seemed to have this huge grasp on her, this tight grip on her. It was constantly on her mind. And
what happens?
And she had been gaslit into feeling this connection to that person still, right? It's like a Stockholm syndrome, right?
Yep.
And they weren't together anymore, thank God. But she was still stuck. Like, maybe I could fix him. Maybe this. You know, I just feel all these things. And she was like, I don't know. It's not healthy. I know that it's not healthy. I just don't know what to do about it. And so one of the things that is really effective in hypnosis is visualization. So a hypnotist teaches visualization different than a non-hypnotist tends to teach it. A hypnotist doesn't just tell you to see it and experience it. They will say something like, I want you to see the colors of the person's shirt. I want you to notice the sounds around you. I want you to think about the timbre of his voice. I want you to think about the smells that you're experiencing. How does it sound to you? How does it feel to you when you're speaking in those moments? And bringing in all of the senses, right? We bring in all of them and we allow them to, and we always, every hypnotherapist should, if you have not done this sort of thing before, make sure that you're equipped for it, because there is the chance of bringing back about those horrible feelings of those reliving experiences, right? And there's specific ways to do it that's very safe, but it still comes with risks. And so what I did for this young lady is I basically said, I want you to experience it, but detached. Experience it from behind yourself.
Almost like you're
as
watching
though
a TV
you are
show.
just watching. I started like, okay, you're right behind yourself. You see the back of your head in this conversation. So you're seeing the other person too, as pretty much, but it's removed.
Right.
So it takes away, it's kind of like when I teach people how to help manage pain. Remove the word pain, change it to sensation. Suddenly your brain thinks of it differently. It loses its power. So it's the same kind of thing. So we start there. I say, okay, so here you're going to see this person. You're going to be behind yourself looking at it and just listening as you experience this again. And then we pause it, we rewind, we pull them back further. Now they're in a theater watching it on a screen. Okay, they're watching it from the side angle. Here's what's happening. Okay, they're removed further. Okay, now we're going to remove the color from the scene. It's black and white. Okay, great. Now watch it again. Now we're going, and so we do this whole removal, like separation process. And she said after that, it was the first time that she had felt detached from that individual since the incidents had happened. And to this day, does not feel attached to that individual. And so it's this like conscious, it's a process, but it's far more effective than here's this exercise for you to do this week, and then next week we'll talk about this, and then because then if there's time in between these improvements, you often revert and roll back.
Absolutely, and you're constantly in this like repeat. It's repetitive, and you're re-traumatized and re-traumatized and re-traumatized.
And if you get to relive it removed, not only does it remove the power by separating it from you, it also empowers you because you see an experience from the outside and now know how to handle it differently in the future.
Exactly. It's just a distant memory. Like, yep, that did happen, but it doesn't have the power over me that it used to. It's just something that I experienced once, and you can move past it. It's not erasing it from your memory, your conscious, whatever. It's there, it's part of you, but to take that power away from it is very, very powerful. But I find just through listening to you is that I think the most impactful part about hypnotherapy is that it even though you're a guide, the person that's being hypnotized has some control over what they're doing, right? It's them doing the work. You're just strictly a guide. You're not
coaching them.
You're coaching them. Exactly. It's not like, hey, I'm going to tell you that, because see, that's the problem with a lot of us that have experienced, some hard traumas in life, is that it removes your power from it. You do become powerless over it. And the most challenging part to get to is to regain your strength, your confidence, your power over it. Like, yeah, that happened, but that's not who I am. Right. Exactly. And people, for whatever reason, that's a really tough place to get to. It's a really, really tough place to get to. And, I think the more people are aware of the type of work that you do, and we can make it more commonplace, just part of the normal conversation, like hypnotherapy. Yeah, that's what I do, and it works great. That's going to help people feel more comfortable around it, and eventually more people are going to be helped by it. So you mentioned that you work at the Tom Silver Foundation. Who is Tom Silver? How did you get to know Tom Silver, and what happens with the foundation? What do you guys do there?
Okay, so Tom Silver was a legend in the world of hypnosis. He trained under a guy named Orman McGill. Orman McGill basically wrote the book on stage hypnosis. So he trained under him. He had been doing hypnosis for over 40 years. Tom Silver was the guy who you probably saw on TV, on all these talk shows in the 80s and 90s. If anyone was doing hypnosis on live TV, it was him. If you saw I can't remember the name, I think the TV show was called Kill the Hypnotist or something like that. He did a whole Discovery Channel show where basically they did an experiment with people, to see if he could create an assassin through hypnosis. It was fascinating to watch.
Okay.
He got someone to go into an ice bath and just completely tolerate it, just sit there like completely blank. It was incredible if you get to watch it. But anyway, Tom Silver was a very scientific person. He didn't like all of the incorporating all the different alternative therapies in with hypnosis, because for him, hypnosis was a medical, scientifically proven phenomenon that happens naturally in the body. And what a lot of, in his view, and in mine, a lot of these other things have kind of watered that down, and so he took a very scientific approach. He started he's one of the first to ever utilize an EEG in his hypnosis practice, where you'd hook somebody up to this thing and you would see on a screen the brainwave changes as they went through the different levels of hypnosis. And he would see exactly where someone was most receptive by looking at this screen. He was going over to China and teaching their medical doctors and certifying them because they were skeptical. So he brought the EEG about, And they were like, oh, wow, we do see this. And ever since then, anyway, long story short, he used to do the halftime hypnosis shows for Chicago Bulls back like Michael Jordan days, right? And he was doing these all through the 90s. He was doing these halftime hypnosis shows, and he was the first one to ever do it because those shows are only like 5 minutes long. You can't do a hypnosis show in 5 minutes. Well, he found a way to do it because that was how he was. And he was at the Performing Hypnosis Summit in Las Vegas, and I went out there specifically to meet him. I saw him on a podcast called Between Two Minds with Joe Beth Bowers, and he was talking about how he's going to be teaching us how to do his halftime hypnosis shows. And I was like, oh my God, that's cool. Okay, let's do this. So my wife told me I had to go or she would kick me if I didn't go.
Then you go.
She did not kick me. I am unkicked as of right now. But so I went there, and day one, I went up to him. I saw him come up the escalator in the hotel there at the Gold Coast Casino, and I see him, and I'm like, holy crap, that's Tom Silver. This guy's like a legend. Everyone knows Tom Silver in the world of hypnosis. And I went up to him, and I shook his hand. I said, hey, I'm Tommy. He goes, Tommy, I'm Tom. I was like, well, I know who you are. He goes, well, actually, my legal name is Tommy, Tomi. I was like, well, see, we were meant to be friends. And he goes, exactly. Cool to meet you. Let's talk later. And as every single time I turned around after that, he was right there. If you ever met the guy, you'd know what I'm talking about. But just that smile on his face, and he'd come right up to me. He goes, Tommy, I'm so glad to see you today. And I'm like, Tom freaking Silver knows my name. What? And so we became fast friends. We exchanged information. He started teaching me his methods of hypnotherapy because I told him, I feel a little bit like a fraud. I'm doing it very stage style. And I just feel like, there's got to be a better way. I'm not a hypnotherapist. He goes, no, you're a hypnotherapist. You're doing it the way I've done it for 40 years. I'm like, oh, well, okay. I'm not going to argue with Tom Silver, And so he showed me the differences of what he did and certified me and licensed me to do his teaching because he had cancer, and he'd been battling cancer for over a decade, and he went into hospice end of April, early May. And a good friend of mine, Israel Mandrake, and he's a mutual friend with Tom. He's also in the Tom Silver Foundation. He's on the board. He called me up. He said, I haven't heard from Tom in a while. Have you heard from him? I said, little bits here and there. I know he's in hospice. So I don't know how he's doing. I said, I've been messaging his wife here and there just to see, is it okay if I message you? And is he okay? And she was responding here and there. And he goes, do you think we could go out and surprise him? I was like, I was honestly hoping to do that before he passes. I want to go out and see him one more time and just shake his hand and thank him. And so he and I bought plane tickets. He booked the hotel. I booked the rental car. So we were like paying the same amount of money. We're gonna make this work, even though neither of us can afford this. So we go out, and I called Tom and I go, hey, surprise, we're gonna be in Vegas next Tuesday. Are you going to be around at all? You want to get lunch one of the days? And he's like, you're going to be in Vegas? For what? And I was like, Israel and I are going to shoot some promo stuff over on Fremont Street, just some street hypnosis and stuff. He goes, oh, that's great. Tell you what, why don't you come over? I'll do some more lessons with you. I was like, that'd be great. So Israel and I go over. We hang out with Tom Silver all 3 days we were there at his house for hours a day. And we met his wife, Suzanne, who's amazing. We just became really, really tight in those moments. And then he sent us home with a bunch of cool stuff. Like he gave me this book Orma McGill wrote that's signed by Orma McGill, and then Tom signed it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is cool. And then we got back and he passed away like 5 days later or a week later, something like that. And no, it was a couple weeks later, but he had been unable to speak after we had gotten back. It just dropped down dramatically. So he passed away, and his wife and I'd been checking in on her and seeing how she's doing and everything. And she said that her and her daughter were going to form a foundation in Tom's honor, a nonprofit. And so she graciously invited Israel and I to be part of that formation because we were the last ones that he certified, last ones that he licensed. We're the only ones legally allowed to teach Tom's methods and trained by him in person, the very last ones. And so we were like, yeah, let's do this. So we've been building this thing out ever since. And that's Tom Silver. Long story. Sorry, but
man, that's great.
He was so generous and a beautiful soul. He was the celebrity hypnotist. He was the one who, he worked with the celebrity class. He was doing their hypnotherapy. You hear about people like Jimmy Kimmel and Jennifer Aniston and all these other celebrities. And I don't know that he worked with all of them, right? But I know he worked with several. He became good friends with some of them. Musicians, actors, actresses, talk show hosts, all of those people. And he was very trusted by them. But what people didn't realize is he used to do a lot of free hypnotherapy for people who were desperately in need. He'd see someone who was a recovered alcoholic. So he had struggled with alcoholism for years. And then basically, through prayer, hypnosis, and AA, he got through it. And he would see people struggling with alcoholism. He would see people struggling with cocaine addiction and things like that. And they were desperate and they had no money and they were just like, I just need help. I don't know how I can do this, but I want to do it. And he would say, don't worry about the money. Sit down. Let's do this. And he would take them right then and there. Just no cost to them. He would just do it because he saw someone hurting. That's just the kind of person he was. He was just that really giving, generous, loving person. And so the foundation continues that, as well as continues the scientific approach of teaching neurologists, scientists, medical professionals, psychology professionals, anybody else who wants to learn hypnosis. We teach the science that backs it up, and we're constantly researching it and checking to make sure that we're actually right. Science doesn't ever settle. We need to make sure that we're checking it against new information that comes out. New information comes out, we got to test ours against that, and we got to constantly be reevaluating how are we doing things. And so Tom was about that. We're continuing that legacy with the medical piece, the certifications that I'm putting on, the trainings and things like that. But I think equally important what we're doing now is we're providing free hypnotherapy to those in need who are underserved and can't afford it. And the way we do that is by people hiring us for other things. So whether it's hiring us for a show, whether it's hiring us for a training, or it's a speaking event, or people who are already looking at hiring a hypnotist to help them quit a bad habit, get their head on straight, whatever it is, get those athletes into flow state like, the next Michael Jordan, next Mike Tyson, next Tiger Woods.
There you go.
The ones that pay for it, they are actually paying for someone else to get that same service or to get like a desperately needed service.
So how do you get out? Is this like street level work that you're doing? How do the people that are in desperate need but don't have the means to get the help, are they coming to you? Are you going to them? How are you finding them?
All over the place. We are reaching out to nonprofits. Okay. We're doing stuff like this, podcasting and hoping to get the word out and help. If enough people know about it, then they can at least send people who are suffering our way and we can help them. But it's a lot of online outreach. I do most of my sessions via Zoom. And what we're hoping to do is work with some of these nonprofits. There's a nonprofit in Arizona called Aravaca Human Resources. They're doing wonderful work over there in that area. There's a huge addiction problem, especially in the Phoenix area. But in Arizona, it's huge right now.
It's bad. It's really bad. It's bad everywhere, but it's real bad.
It's real bad there. It's real bad in like San Francisco. And, there's a lot of addiction that is going untreated. And so in those environments, we need the funding in order to go to those places. So if there are nonprofits that are that have grant funding and things like that they can pay for myself to fly out and spend a week with those in need, that's what we're going to do. If it has to be via Zoom, it can be via Zoom as long as they've got the setup and we can do it right there with their computers or their phones or whatever. But we want to get into the communities as well, like physically into the communities. It's not really me going out on the street with the people, but it's bringing the people off the street into a facility so that they're like secluded, they're private. But yeah, that's the goal there is we want to, and it's not just going to be hypnotherapy that we provide. Eventually we want it to be kind of a whole mind body health.
You have to get them there. and
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
it.
hard part, is what is it, as somebody who's in recovery and seeing so many people come and go, it's like you can lead them there, you can get them there, but what's going to make them want to stay? What's going to, and there are far too many people that get the courage and the strength to ask for help and to take that step. And it is much more difficult than you think that it is. And that's why so many people don't stick around there. It's just too much for them to bear where they're coming from, what they've dealt with, what their life has been like, and
Right.
to have a tool, have something that's going to be able to help them stick around and get more help that they need. And the fact that you and your foundation are offering those services, it's amazing, and it's very, very powerful. And that's like the big reason why I wanted to talk to you is about this work. Exactly, is that there, like you mentioned, Phoenix, San Francisco, I mean, all over the country, all over the world for that matter, there are so many millions of people who are suffering with addictions of various kinds, but mostly drug and alcohol, or where it's really bad for people. Services are shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And so it really is going to fall upon people like you, like me, and our neighbors and others to get out there and get people the help that they need. And a lot of that has to come through the awareness, has to come through the storytelling, but it actually has to come through the effort and the work like that you're doing and your foundation is doing, and what I, have been plodding along and doing and building and building. And it's hugely, hugely important. And I can't bang the drum loud enough.
And
Oh,
think about this too.
yeah,
Like, if
please.
you think about it, so why do people get addicted to things primarily? It's because they feel like something is missing in their life, right? They feel like
Yep.
something is off
Mhm.
internally,
Yes.
and they're trying to fill that space. They're
Yep.
trying to fill a void of some sort. And one of the things that hypnosis is wonderful for is because what we're essentially doing is rewiring those synapses, right? We're
Mhm.
working with the electrical currents of the brain and all of that, not through shock therapy, thankfully, but we're doing this, right? It's a different shock, but there are shock inductions. But we're not doing that. But what we do is we find that when someone comes to us for one issue, the underlying issue almost always resolves itself. And that spills over into a full-on snowball domino effect. I had someone who had been seeing me for hoarding. They'd been hoarding for over 40 years. They had amassed a huge junk pile in their car, in their home, all like they had me come to their home to do work with them, and you could see there really was no surface on which to set anything. It was just covered, right? And I know there are worse situations out there. This was bad though. It was a lot. And not only and they had mentioned, they're hoping to get a little healthier as well and just feel better about life in general. Well, after the second session, they said, "Is this common? But I'm down like 5 pounds. I'm snacking less." I was like,
Yeah.
"Tell me more about that."
Yeah.
They're like, "I'm also swearing less." I was like, "Interesting, huh?" Like the house is getting clean,
Yeah.
the desks are getting cleaned up. They're like, but it's like it's kind of, if you think of the body holistically, when you're fixing one area, when you exercise, you're not only working out that one muscle group, right? You're not, if you're losing weight and you're working out, you're lifting or whatever it is that you're doing, you're not only going to lose fat out of your arms, you're losing fat everywhere. It's getting your heart pumping. That
Mhm.
heart's going to be circulating more nutrients. Means you're going to get more oxygen to your brain. Means you're all these different things that are happening alongside it. Hypnosis works exactly the same way in that it helps to resolve some of those underlying issues you didn't even know were there.
Absolutely. I got sober through AA, and one of the big things that they did, they I wouldn't say discovered, but they became very open about was that, the drinking, the substance, whatever it might be, that's just a symptom of the underlying problem. And that's really weird for people to get to. They're like, well, what do you mean? Like, it's the problem's the alcohol. Is like, well, no, there's a reason why. Like you said, there's a void, there's something you're trying to fill. And when you take away the substance and you get your head clear and your spirit is a little bit better, you're going to start feeling something off, something different. And that's okay. It's perfectly normal. But again, that's where people get turned off. That's where they get scared. They don't like to feel their feelings. They don't like to feel these emotions because they don't understand what they are. And just from talking with you, obviously that's where hypnosis comes in. It is more of it's like it either eliminates it or it's like a translation to what these emotions are, maybe why you're feeling them and why you don't need to be worried about them or concerned about them anymore and just move past them. When we were talking earlier, you mentioned that you had written a book. This is kind of, I feel like, a nice segue into the book that you've written. So why don't you tell us about it and why you decided to write it?
All right. I don't know if it'll show up on here because my blurred camera.
There it is.
Yeah, it's called Transformed. Trance spelled like trance, right?
Yeah.
Trance-formed. Hypnosis through the lens of scripture. I am a Christian, first and foremost, before all things. That is my identity. I grew up Christian, never really felt it until I came to like a crisis point in my own life. And I finally was like, all right, if you're there, if you're real, just, I need something. Something's got to give.
Right.
Something gave. And, long story short, it had me rethinking everything in my life. I was like, I got to change things if I actually believe in the way that I'm living, because the way I was living was not in alignment with the Bible. And if I'm actually identifying with the Bible, you can't half identify with it as if it's your faith, then you're either in or you're out. And I wanted to be in. And I had been told for a long time that hypnosis and scripture don't mush well very good. They don't, it's mind control. It's, First Peter says, be sober minded. The devil, your adversary, prowls around like a lion waiting to devour you. And so I'm like, well, I don't know if I'm supposed to be doing this. I met with my pastor. He said, I don't know if you're supposed to be doing this or not. I don't know enough about hypnosis. Great pastor, because he didn't just jump in and say, no, you shouldn't do this, right?
Yeah.
He was like, I don't know enough about hypnosis to give you an answer. I encourage you to dig into the scripture of it and compare it to what the information about hypnosis says. And, let's get together again and talk about it some more. And so we did that. I met with him. Again, after doing a lot of research biblically, I met with another pastor that I know. I was emailing back and forth with a Catholic priest about this, and the Catholic Church actually has accepted hypnosis for medical treatment since 1958. So, and the actually, I believe it's the AMA, also has accepted hypnosis as a verified medical treatment since 1958, the same year I think it was. But I digress. I started writing this book as I was diving into scripture to decide if I should be doing it at all. So I used the book as a means of discovery. And as I'm discovering things, I'm writing. And basically, it turned out that the people who are saying hypnosis is not compatible just don't know what hypnosis is. And that's what it comes down to. Because if we say that, that's usually how it goes. Hypnosis is a tool. It doesn't take away someone's free will. It doesn't make people unable to think. It doesn't do any of that stuff. It's not reading minds. It's not psychic. It's not necromancy. It's not, what are these? It's not being a medium. It's not, there's all these pieces that people associate with it. And I blame hypnotists for this, for a lot of it, because a lot of hypnotists have incorporated a lot of these other things with it. And they've branded it all together. And they've made it mystical where it used to be medical. And it flavored it badly, so no one liked the taste in their mouth anymore.
Yeah.
I've had some friends no longer become friends with me that were in that community because of this, because I told them that what they were doing was a disservice to the community. But you got to be honest with people. And so I wrote this book, and basically I sat down with my pastor, this other pastor, this priest, and I was going back and forth, and they were saying, if everything you're saying about hypnosis is true, then there is no conflict. And I was approaching it like, if I find anything that says hypnosis may not be something I should touch, I'm done with it. I'm finding a new career, because I had to be either all in or all out. So the book goes into all of that, goes into, the scripture, what are the specific verses, in Deuteronomy, in First Timothy, I think it's First Timothy, in First Peter for sure. I don't remember which book in Timothy. Anyway, but it goes into all of these different verses that had been thrown at me, talks about what was going on in context. And I basically get into the fact that hypnosis is an amoral tool. There is no morality associated with the tool. Now, it's just like anything else. A hammer. In the right hands, it's going to be a tool used to build and fix things. In the wrong hands, it's a weapon. right? Or in the right hands, it's self-defense, right? So it's not about the tool itself. It's about how it's
Yeah.
used, right?
Right.
And so, yes, you can do harm with hypnosis. Like I was saying before, reliving traumas and not
Oh
doing it the
yeah.
right way. You
Yes.
can go about messing with people's heads if you're doing things the wrong way. And it's so hard as a hypnotist because there is no real oversight to the world of hypnosis. There's not like a governing body. There are those bodies that exist, but they don't really have authority in the world of, you don't have to be licensed or certified. And anybody can say, oh, I'm certified in this method or that method or whatever. And I could have, 20 years ago certified you in the Tommy G method, and there's just no oversight to it. So I wrote the book to demystify hypnosis and break down the science behind it and just explain it's a natural brainwave state. Every time you zone out, every time you're praying, if you're doing it right, you are entering into a state of hypnosis. Every time you watch a movie, and you're sucked into that storyline, you're in hypnosis. When you are driving down the road and you get from point A to point B and you go, how did I not crash? Because I don't even remember stopping at a stop sign. Like, did I stop? You were in hypnosis. That natural brainwave frequency of receptivity, you were still receiving the information, but your conscious mind was kind of on autopilot. So that's hypnosis. If that's something we shouldn't be touching, then our brains, there's something wrong with them. And I don't buy into that.
I don't either. Tommy, this has been amazing, man. Thank you for making the time, showing up. And how can people find you? First off, let's talk about where can they find information about the Tom Silver Foundation and your book, and how can they find out about you and how they, services you provide, how they can hire you, all that good stuff. So plug away, my man.
Well, I'm gonna start with Tom Silver Foundation. You can find out more about us. The website is still being added to actively. It's brand new because Tom passed away at the end of May, and we've been building it since. So we're still really young. It's literally like we've had the nonprofit heading, I think, for like a month now. It finally went through. Tom Silver Foundation. Tom spelled Tom, Silver spelled like silver, the color. TomSilverFoundation.org. You can book time with me right there. I am on there as the hypnotherapy program director. I oversee all of our hypnotherapists. I do all of the scheduling for them. For anyone who does any of our services like that, I'm the one who is kind of the filter. So the way it works is anyone books time with me, I do a consultation call, takes about 30 minutes, and then we decide how to move forward from there. If you want to just get in touch with me directly, then you can go to hockeytownhypnotist.com, and you can also schedule, a consultation there. My book, I have their signed copies of my book in my store there. Otherwise, it's only available on Amazon. You just got to search trance-formed, and it's usually the first item that shows up. But it's only on Amazon. That's where I published it. I didn't want to pay some publishing company $1,000 when I expected to sell like 5 copies.
Smart. Well, again, man, this has been great. Thank you so much, Tommy. And take care. And everybody, do take the time, learn about Tommy, what he does, and give hypnotherapy. There we go. A try. It really works. Thanks.
Can I throw one quick thing real quick?
Yeah, please.
I meant to say this before. In honor of Tom Silver and all the work that he did pro bono anyway, what I am doing of my own accord for the Tom Silver Foundation is I offer for everyone free pain relief services. So anyone who's experiencing anything from a headache to a broken foot to whatever it is, if you are experiencing pain, if you're experiencing pain of any kind and you want relief, message me. I will find time to work with you over Zoom, and in 10 minutes your pain can be gone for the rest of the day more effectively and more thoroughly than it would be if you took over-the-counter drugs.
Yeah, awesome. There it is, everybody. Thanks, Tom.
Appreciate you. Thanks.